Walking around with my eyes wide open, not knowing I was walking asleep. Passing by strangers without even looking, not one eye could I meet.
Something inside says, hey, you've been missing the life you came here for. Just open your mind and your ears and listen for the key that unlocks the door. You stay awake and aware. Hear the opening, awake and aware. Quietly listen, awake and aware. Now don't go back to sleep, don't go back to sleep. Can't go back, don't wanna stay the same, won't go back. I glimpse the new, don't go back. Don't wanna live in it, don't go back, won't go back, don't go back to sleep. I heard a story just last week about the river and the man. How he might cross that river every day, yet it never, 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 no, never, 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 never stays the same. Stay awake and aware. Now feel the opening, wake and aware. Quietly listen, wake and aware. Now don't go back to sleep, don't go back to sleep.
So if you're tired of just being tired, you gotta make the time to go within.
You might be surprised at what you find if you listen to yourself, come into yourself, love yourself, you know you can.
Stay awake and aware. Awake and aware. You gotta stay awake and aware. Awake and aware.
Wonder why your head say
Awake and aware. Awake and aware. You stay awake and aware. Don't go back to sleep. Stay awake and aware.
there'll be opening, awake and aware. Quietly listen, awake and aware. Don't go back to sleep, can't go back, won't go back. Don't go back to sleep. No, can't go back, don't go back, don't go back to sleep. No, no, you can't go back, you won't go back, don't go back to sleep.
Don't go back to sleep. I won't go back to So today the talk title is Miracles Are Awesome Normalities, and I am inspired by a lot of things, one of them being the Hanukkah story. And as Beverly said, it is not a Jewish Christmas. Dear. Basics. Christmas is about a baby born in a manger who would grow up to be the Christ. Now, that's a nice story, but it's only a good story if you realize that you are a baby that grew up and is growing up, and the purpose is to know your divinity, which would be that you would be the Christ. Get it? If it's somebody else's story, it's not as powerful as it is your story. It's about you. And the same with the Hanukkah story, which is there's no baby. Instead, there is the Seleucid army. They're a bunch of Greeks. They've invaded Jerusalem. They've taken over, and then they took over the temple. They did things in the temple that Jewish people don't like. It'd be, how many of you have ever been burglarized? And just knowing that somebody was in your house made you feel creepy. So think what it was like for the Jewish people to have somebody in their sacred holy house that wasn't Jewish, that shouldn't have been there. Not only that, they were in the Holy of Holies. Just wrong. No baby involved. What happened is that the Maccabees, somehow, all we know is that there were Maccabees and there was a Greek army, and the Maccabees somehow overcame the Greek army. And what it said is that they were like the first guerrilla warfare people. They didn't play fair. How many of you have seen the 300? Boom, 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 boom. The old way that used to do fighting. Boom, 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 boom. Out in the open. Send in the ones you don't like first. The generals are way in the back. No, not the Maccabees. They were sneaky. Went behind things. Got them from behind. And won. I love it. Anyway, so they took back Jerusalem, and they took back the temple, and they took back the Holy of Holies. And then it was their job to clean up, because it was, to a Jewish person, not a great thing. So they were going to clean physically and also spiritually. And to clean spiritually, they needed holy oil, and they only had enough oil for one lighting of a menorah. A menorah is actually a Jewish word for candelabra. Most candelabras have 7 places on it, but this menorah is not a menorah. It is a Hanukkah. Notice it's got 8 on both sides, and the middle is the one that you light all of them from. What happened was they were hoping that they would have enough oil for one lighting of the candle. The miracle is they had enough oil for 8 days to be lit. So therefore the 8. It's in memory of that. It's in memory of them not only having religious freedom and taking back their home and taking back their life, it's also the miracle of light. So it's called the Festival of Light. Now here's what I really like. This is a blog written about Hanukkah. This is by a Jewish person. They say every Jewish holiday can be summed up by the following quote: "They tried to kill us, we won, let's eat." So it's sort of about the food. I love this. And the food that celebrates Hanukkah, I'm here. Coming from family that came from the South, I could be Jewish, because you fry everything in oil. So there's latkes, which are just potato pancakes, yum, yum, yum. And here's the one I think I could really love: fried donuts. Yum. Anyway, that's not the point. The point is, what the story is that there's so many versions of this story. I've been inspired because it tells me, and this is the month of inspiration, this story inspires me to remember that if I need something, God not only gives me what I need, but beyond. God's not stingy. It goes beyond itself. Oh, you need 7 more days? I'll give you 8. It also inspires me to remember something that Rabbi Ted brought up once. Because he said, a lot of people think the miracle is that there was enough oil for 8 days. He said, here's the miracle for me. Somebody believed they would take back the temple and hid some oil. Some people believed that no matter where the story was, it wasn't the end of the story. Where are you in your story? Truth heals. Who wants to admit that they're in the middle of the story and it doesn't look so good? It's not the end of the story. Somebody's already believed in you. The plot is already working out for your good. To remember that inspires me. That story inspires me. But I looked at it again because I look at every story every time, and because every time it comes up, and because I change, the story changes. How many of you have noticed that some of the metaphysical books that you're reading, the author got smarter just recently? Like, oh, that's really, Well, the new way that I'm looking at this whole story of Hanukkah is even a deeper story. Because if I go for symbolism, a house in most holy literature means consciousness. The house means consciousness. So a house divided against itself, when that's said, how many of you have heard that? A house divided against itself will fall. The house is me. If I'm divided against myself, if I can't stand straight, if I don't know where I really stand and what I'm for, I will fall. There's a tendency that I can fall over because I'm not grounded. I'm not standing up firm in what I believe. I just had that experience driving in. I could see where both things were true, and because I saw both things, there was like two selves, and therefore I had no self. I don't know who I am in this one area. And that means anything can come along and I can topple. No, I know that I will come to a conclusion of deciding which self is me and which self I where I want to live from, and then I'll be strong. So a house divided is you divided. And a temple represents your holiest self. A temple is that spiritual aspect of you, that eternal aspect of you. That's a temple. And sometimes it can seem like our spirituality has been usurped by something outside of ourselves. We'd like to be a certain way, but we can't. How many of you would like to be loving, but then you watch the news? How many of you would like to be positive and have hope, but you can't until something else happens outside of you? How many of you are there? Do you see that that's your spiritual self being usurped? The outside has come in and it's sullied the waters. The waters always mean subconscious. You know who you're supposed to be, but you can't possibly be that way. Well, what this story says to me is that there's always enough oil to light the candle of hope within you, and God can purify not only just the temple, but the Holy of Holies, which is your heart. There's always enough oil. There's always enough spiritual substance within you to find love if you need it, to find hope if you need it, to find life if you need it, to find courage if you need it. There's always enough there. We don't have, just start. How many of you know you should be loving other people, but you don't think you can, so you don't even start? Not you? Can I start naming names? Oh, it's dark water out there. How many of you think that the world would really be a lot better in about 3 years and 10 months? Got ya. See, that's if when the outside's okay, I can be okay. That is the outside taking over your spiritual life. And what this story says to me is, no, you find that light within you and you start burning it, and it will burn away the unhappiness and the shift. See, we teach living from the inside out because that's what would happen. They would have cleaned up the Holy of Holies, then the temple, then Jerusalem. So you clean your heart, then your consciousness, and then will act from such a place that you will be the bringer of light into your world. You'll be the place where God shows up. You'll be the beginning. That's what this story meant for me to this time. And what I've noticed is that I am attracted to miracle stories, especially during the winter. The winter time is a time of light, of love, and miracles. And if you don't believe that, just go to Netflix. How many of you have Netflix? Do you know there's a whole section of what's trending now? And every other thing that's trending is a miracle Christmas story. And here's how they go. So I'll just run them all for you. Girl meets boy. Girl and boy have an attraction. Big obstacle. Obstacle is eliminated by Christmas Eve. Voila! And oftentimes, some sort of miracle also happens. And I'm looking at all these miracle things and noticing that I want to watch these shows. In the winter, I want miracle stories. I want them. I crave them. I crave them like I sometimes crave sugar. And I think they're better for me. And I think it's because we want to be reminded that something good is happening no matter what else is happening. We want to know that God is still real no matter what we see out in the world. And so I noticed that I've been craving these stories. And one of them in particular really actually it was awful. If you go for an acting, set, storyline, feasibility, awful. Message, great. Here's the message. It's all. How many of you have seen The Christmas Candle? It's on Netflix. Don't watch it. I'm just going to tell you the storyline, and you can just save yourself an hour and a half. Christmas Candle. 200 years ago in England, in a small town, a small little hamlet, a candle maker was praying, and he wasn't just praying for himself, he was praying for his community. He didn't want just good for himself, he was praying that his village that was going through so much poverty and having to overcome so many challenges, he was praying for the whole village to be blessed. And so a Christmas angel showed up. And the angel said, I will bless one of your candles, and if you give this candles to someone in your village, if they light the candle and say a prayer, their prayer will be answered. But I'll come every 25 years. So it's 200 years later, and it's the 25th year, and everyone's excited because they might be the one that gets the Christmas candle. And everyone believes. And the candle maker's like on the 5th generation. And he is old enough that he's seen the angel twice. And twice he gave the magical, that's what they call it, the miracle candle to people. Twice he's given it away, and twice amazing miracles happened that not only affected the person that got the candle, but affected the whole village. So he's so excited because he knows the angel will come. And the whole village knows the story, and they're all at Twitter because this is the 25th year. And there's a new minister in town. You've heard about the new sheriff? No. In miracle stories, it's the new minister. So a new minister shows up, and he hears about the Christmas candle, and he says, that's bah humbug. That's silly. First of all, God wouldn't show up every 25 years. I'm like going, check. And second of all, God wouldn't pick one person to be blessed and nobody else. I'm going, check. But unfortunately, watching this movie, I see the angel show up. And the candle maker and his wife are in amazement because there's the angel. And the angel goes over and touches one of his candles that he's hung. It's one of those candles that you dip, you know, and the bunch of them are drying. And he goes over the angel, he, she, who knows. That's the thing about angels. It's really not about gender, which should teach us something. Anyway, so touches the candle, and the candle lights up. And they're so at Twitter and so excited that they run over to get it, and they fall, and then the candles go everywhere, and they lose the miracle candle. But the whole village is waiting for it. Oh dear. So they come up with a scheme. They're going to give away the 29 candles that hadn't been touched, and they're going to tell people, oh, by the way, I should tell you, people were putting in applications to get the candle. So they're going to give away 29 candles to 29 applications, and they're going to say what they would have said if it had been the miracle candle, and they're going to say, light this candle and say a prayer. Well, during Christmas Day, guess what? The minister gets wind of what happened. Frauds, silly story. And so from the pulpit, he says, okay, how many of you, oh no, he didn't say how many of you, who among you got the miracle candle? And 29 people stand up, and they look around, and they're surprised, and he goes, and he says, and so who experienced a miracle? And 29 people stay standing up because they believed in a candle and that God would bless them. And they lit the candle, and they said the prayer, and miraculous things happened. And I go, check. See, we just need to believe. The whole thing with all of these things I'm seeing is that you got to believe that something's good happening no matter what's going out there. Isn't that the story of Hanukkah? Somebody, I love it, Rabbi Ted, somebody believed that the Jewish people would take back their temple. I believe that really conscious people who believe in inclusivity, people who believe in doing unto others as we would love to have be done unto us, I believe that people who know that the earth is alive and that all creatures are sentient creatures, I believe that they will take over the earth. I'd like my candle on that one. And so I'm not believing in where we are now. I'm believing in where my heart tells me I want to go. Just like those crazy people that lit a candle and did a prayer according to a story. I used to say, I love it. I have to say this is an aside. Ever since I got back from Egypt, God is upgrading my belief system. The belief system I had a year ago is not the belief system I have now. I'm getting belief system 2.0, most likely 275.8, but anyway, upgrades. So this is what got upgraded. I used to say that if you need a miracle in your life, if you need something to happen in your life, you need to get a bigger God. Well, God's as big as it's going to get. What you need is a bigger you. Prayer doesn't change God, prayer changes you. The prayers that you have over there when we have prayer circles or when you go to the ministry of prayer and you fill out a request, it's not, we don't believe we're going to change God. We do believe that you can expand into your true light-filled self and therefore get a truer light-filled experience. Prayer changes you. See, that miracle candle, when it was given to a family, didn't change God. What it did was it changed them to have faith that something good could happen. And it happened. Prayer changes you. So if you need something, you need to get a bigger you. Some examples that I want to share is there was a time when I thought that, I don't know, I had a big opportunity for a healing, and I was supposed to have surgery, and I told the surgeon that I wanted to have a chance to heal myself, so I said, I'll come back in 3 months. And she said, well, I can't make you do it now, but I do it now. I said 3 months. So I took the summer off, and I contemplated God as life. Now, it's not that God got bigger in my life, it's like I grew into God. And God was my life. And I remember doing strange things like sitting out on my lawn on Magnolia, because that's where we lived at the time, and just watching grass and go, whoa, far out. Now, don't go there. A, it was illegal then. And B, this is cheaper. Contemplating God is cheaper. I just like, wow, look in the grass. Woo! And I could understand why poets would write strange odes to grass. And then I'd watch our tomatoes ripen and wow. I was like, life. It's like I was so filled with life that I didn't care whether I kept my body or not. It didn't matter because my life was God's life. And before I had the surgery, you go in the day before and you sign a bunch of forms and then they make little marks on you and you have to agree to the little marks and stuff like that, the little autographs. And I said to the surgeon, remember I said that I wanted to have 3 months to see what would happen, so can you just do a quick ultrasound? And she huffed. I could just see it, huffed. Okay, and I'll do it right now. And she took me into a place where they could do a quick ultrasound. She just wanted to get it over with so that she could go ahead and plan the surgery. there was nothing there to do surgery on. She said, get out of here, you're going to make me believe. I grew into life. There was a time that I had a hard time forgiving someone, and I sort of prayed to be forgiving. How many of you have kind of prayed to be forgiving? How many of you know you should forgive, but all you know is that you know you should forgive? Instead, I prayed to just know God's love, and pretty soon there was nothing to forgive. You grow into something and there's nothing there. There is no obstacle. There's nothing to overcome. I think that's the story of this whole wonderful time of year when it's dark and we have an opportunity to realize that in the silence and in the darkness, there is such growth, such opportunity to realize that what is inside of you is more real than what's outside of you. And that if we tend to the Holy of Holies, Jerusalem gets taken care of. Which is why in Revelations it says there shall be a new Jerusalem, because the Holy of Holies has been cared for, cleaned up, honored. So I want to enlist you in a miracle. A semi-Christmas miracle, but I'd like it before then. Let's do, well, I just realized that in my mind I cannot accept Groundhog's Day. Jeez. So somebody accept Groundhog's Day for me. I'd like a Groundhog's Day miracle. Now here's the thing. We have sold our property, got a really good price, but we haven't found a place to move into. But it's not unlike us selling our property on Northgate, where the Archdiocese came along and offered us 2 times what the property was worth because they wanted to put a parish in that area of town. And so we went, yay, 2 times? Are you kidding? We'll sell it for twice what it's worth. And they gave us 9 months to find a new place. Piece of cake. Well, it was 8 months and 2 weeks. We were packing up and we were going to put everything in storage, and we had a place where we were going to meet on Sundays and a place where we could have offices and classes, and we had no permanent place to go. And I kept just knowing that God would not forsake us. The oil was there, and I just kept going off the oil in my heart, and all of us were going off the oil in our heart. And the strangest thing happened. Because I remember it was 8 months and 2 weeks. We were to be out in 2 more weeks. And I was walking by the reception area. This is before voicemail. Think about it. There was a time before voicemail. I know, little pieces of paper. You had to have a receptionist. So we had a receptionist, and I remember the person saying, well, Kathianne's on her way out. But I'll tell her that you have some information about a property. And I go, stop. And I picked up the phone and someone said, I hear you're looking for a place. The person I work for is representing a Christian Science church on Sandpoint. And they want to sell to another religious institution, and they don't want to put the property on the market. Are you interested? Whoa. Yeah. There have been so many miracles in the life of this church. There's oil. There's oil in my heart. I have faith. But I'm asking you to have faith. Because there's probably a lot of people out there wondering where we'll go and how we will find our place. So I need to enroll you, because I'd like to get it done before 2 weeks before we have to be out of here. I want to enroll you in seeing us sooner than later. Much sooner. So, with my health issue, I had to know God's life. With my forgiveness issue, I had to know God's love. And this, I need to know God's good. That there's a good for us, and we really ought to have it. And that it's already prepared in the mind of God. The wonderful woman who said, not only was I saying what I wanted, I had to realize that there was something that wanted me. And 2 hours later, something happened. There's a property that wants to be our home. I want you to know that with me and keep that in your heart so that our experience, which is Jerusalem, will be good and very good and swift. Let's say it together. Swift. Thank you. Any questions? Any questions about how this process works? How many of you would go home and have a question? How many of you would say, well, what's that mean for me? No questions? Oh, come on up. I love it. I love an honest person that's curious.
So you spoke earlier about not that we need a larger God, but that we need to grow into our larger selves and getting more connected with God in that way. So obviously coming here and getting more in tune into that, and mindful is a way to do that, but what are some more ways specifically for us to grow?
You are so smart. How many of you were thinking that exact same thing? See? Oh, thank you. That's why I've got to ask more questions. I have to ask that you ask those questions because I sort of take it for granted. One, yes, you can just be mindful, but mindful of what? See, this is, mindfulness is often being aware. You got to be awake and aware. That's wonderful. But that will not necessarily expand your ability to have more God in your life. So I would say you match that with something called contemplation. And you get a verse or a reading or whatever inspires you and you rehearse it. Or you have a prayer practitioner help you write one for yourself. For me, at that time when I was sitting on the grass, it's that there's only one life. That life is God's life. That life is perfect. That life is my life now, which they turned into a beautiful song. So that just ran over in my mind all the time. And Emerson says, what you contemplate, you become. And oftentimes we are contemplating what we want to overcome, as opposed to contemplating what we want to become. So we are formed by what we are rehearsing over and over in our mind. That's one thing. The other thing is to have someone pray with you. So we have spiritual tune-ups, we have prayer circles, we have prayer practitioners take ministry of prayer, and you pray for the end. And then you go to sleep as though the end were already happening, because that 8 hours of sleep is fertile ground. It's fertile soil. It is where you really grow. See, when we're in our daily life, we're just busy coping and doing. But growth happens when you're sleeping. It's like, that's why I love the winter, because in the winter, we think nothing's happening, like the plants are in hibernation. No. Their roots are going deep and they're going out. So that when the warm weather comes, the plant can spring up more than it had before because the roots are prepared. So you put down spiritual roots for your future when you sleep. So never go to sleep on what you don't want to be thinking about. Always go to sleep on what you want to be thinking about. And the way I did it, I remember when I got married, this is the way I did it. I would go to sleep and I'd push against something. It's like, move over, I need more room. See, I was going to sleep with someone, and then pretty soon I was going to sleep with someone. Make sense? Okay, so thank you. That was a great question. Wasn't that a great question? Yes. Did you have it? Was there another question? I thought I saw somebody else's with their hand up. Well, then we'll just go pray. No? You have to come up really quickly. Wow, for somebody in the back to come up and ask a question, this is a Christmas miracle.
Hi, everyone. I feel really shy about this, but my mom's really sick. She has a brain injury, and I know how I feel comfortable going within and creating what I want in my heart in most of my life. But in this part of my life, I feel so afraid because I feel very much like if I try this and it doesn't work, I want to hold in my heart what I see possible for my mom, and I don't know how to do it because I feel too afraid.
Oh, honey. Well, thank you. There's probably other people with a similar experience, so that's why we have prayer practitioners. What I tell people when they have a family member that needs prayer is I say, no, you just need to love them and let somebody else pray. Your job is to love. That's all your job is. And then you give someone else the assignment. So that's why we have a prayer circle over here and a prayer, you can put out a prayer request. Let other people pray. It's none of your business. Your business is to love. Do you get that? Family members, you love, we pray. And then there'll be a time when somebody else will say, I don't know what to do, and you'll say, you love them, I'll pray. That's why we come here, we're on this silly planet all together. We're not supposed to do this by ourselves. Okay? You're welcome. All right, so let's pray. Just take a deep breath. And I'd like you to participate in my, I'm going to say it, Groundhog's Day miracle. That we find our perfect place before Groundhog's Day. So imagine with me that an angel is before you and hands you a candle and says, this is a miracle candle. And you believe it. You believe in the angel, and an angel is always a high thought. So what I would love for you to know is that you are given the opportunity to believe in a miracle right now. For yourself, for your family, and for this community. Now imagine that the candle is lit. And what's required of you is that you simply state what you're willing to accept. Accept for yourself, accept for your family, and accept with me the perfect right home for our community. Let us know our new home together. How beautiful it is, how perfect it is, and how it is a place that our children and our children's children will grow up in. Know that with me. And the high thought says, all things are possible in God. And the angel disappears, and the candle's gone, but the light remains within your heart. And we keep that light burning because there's always enough oil to do so. And I say thank you, sweet Spirit, for the opportunity for us to come together and affirm together the beautiful future that we will walk into. And so it is.